Okay, that should do it. What is up, everybody? We are live here with today's Money Match Gaming podcast. We'd like to welcome you. Today we talk esports, but first I'll lend it over to my co-host Dan Estrada to take us off on a little ride.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very little ride. It's just introductions. I am his co-host, Dan Estrada. I don't have an AKA. The person who was speaking before, well, he didn't give his name. His name is Lance. Many people call him the Infinite. And in this center right here, I did it. I got it right. In this area over here is Mr. Alvin, also known as Smurf, and he's going to be joining us for this conversation today on esports. Now, what is an esport? What is an esport? Well, esport is an electronic sport. That's it. That's what esport stands for. End of conversation. Shut it down. No, but we're talking about kind of the culture behind esports, why they are growing, where they're at now, what are popular esports, stuff like that. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it back over to Lance, unless Alvin, you want to say anything to the folks at home? No? All right. Nothing out of Alvin yet, Smurf. We're going to pass it back to the Infinite, and let's lead the way, Captain.
Okay, so today I wanted to take the time out of our days to talk about esports. It's obviously something Money Match Gaming is into and something we're trying to segue into. So, I figured we'd have a conversation. I did a fair amount of research on the whole topic itself and delved really deep with a lot of panels and a lot of other people that talked about, esports and stuff and what obstacles it faces and stuff. And I just wanted to explore this with my team and the people around us. And, I kind of wanted to start it with the infrastructure. I think as far as the infrastructure of esports, it has a lot of problems. I think the biggest one being how fragmented the industry is. I think there's just a lot of things, especially with media, that make esports not work properly. And what really inhibits its massive growth. Now it's growing really fast as it is, and I think these things are starting to pick up. But, that's definitely the first place I wanted to stop and kind of have a quick conversation with everybody on how they feel about, basically the media of esports and what that looks like. And the storytelling of it, whether that be players, whether that just be the industry itself, whether it be the game, and what we could work on as an industry to improve that process.
I guess I'll start. So in my opinion, one of the big things why esports suffers a kind of different appeal than traditional sports is a lot viewing it live, not necessarily on TV or anything, but in person. Whereas you go to an arena and you see people, physically play a sport, and there's space there for them to play their sport, and everybody else sits around them. It's the same thing kind of in a video game, but way less space is needed, and it's almost easier to just watch it at home. Granted, you do have the moments where being there is exciting, just like being in any audience, just feeling the wave and the reaction of the crowd around you is really cool. But it doesn't always lend itself well to, in my opinion, into esports, because it's basically just you're watching just a big screen the whole time. You might as well just do that at home. But that's kind of my feelings as far as esports go from a live perspective. A lot of the time, and there are ones that have sold out arenas, so I'm not trying to say that it's impossible, it can't be done, everybody would rather just watch at home on Twitch, which might be the case. But games such as Dota, the Dota Invitational for the past few years has sold out big arenas and offered very large payouts to the people who've competed in them as well. So there's it's just different. It's a different feel. The infrastructure from a traditional sport and from an esport has different appeals, and there's different positives, I think, and negatives to both. If that makes any sense.
I'll let you chime in before
Yeah, I think as far as the media is concerned, I feel like it's very broken, and not in the gaming term broken, or it means good. I feel like it's very segmented. I feel like there's no one entity that you can think of when you think esports, and you're like, that's the place that I should go to get this news.
Right.
There might be for like one specific game or something else, but there's like no one destination where you can go to and really kind of expect that. And I was trying to like while them was speaking, I was trying to think of the name of that TV show that you just like they have like a sports network or gaming network. What's the name of that thing? It's like
G4
or G4.
Yeah, G4 no longer exists actually.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was wondering. I'm like, do they just no longer exist? I'm like, they weren't quite doing it all, like, you know, and like, because if something like G4 existed today, I could see them like, maybe to be successful incorporating, which is why I was like wondering if it existed, incorporating more YouTubers and more Twitch people like that, and not just like having them on the show, because that's great, but being real
giving
with
them
people,
their own like place to do their art in a sense, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, like not just, and that's what I'm saying, not just having them on like their show, because I feel like that was like a problem with G4 is like if they had a guest or something like that, they wanted to have that person in the studio. If they wanted to have the event, they wanted to have that person, and I'm like, that's cool, but that's not the only way that you have to show content. Is by a physical guest in your studio, especially when you're talking about esports. Like, why is the one thing that's digital all of a sudden have to be only physical, and that's the only way that you present content? And I think that's where like the big drop off is that people have. Like, I mean, that exists now in esports, and it's good. Obviously, we want commentators, we want people at events and things like that, but that's the only type of content that gets shown, period. And people like, and like, since we're focused so much in on that, I feel like a lot of these other esports companies and entities don't do that at all. They just don't see that as like a thing to like concentrate on, and it's just not there. Like recently, we started like sharing, Smash Bros. Pros tweets on Instagram, and just like, because I mean that small idea is like, that's nothing. It's just reporting news. It's the same way as taking somebody's quote as they're leaving, like some celebrities quote as they're leaving a premiere, and you holler for their quote and you write it down and put it in the newspaper the next day. Right. Or in digital times, you just simply retweet the person. Like you just do it there, or you share somebody's content to another platform, mention it in your blog article, share the link on Facebook. It's the exact same thing, but nobody's doing it in the esports realm. For fucking esports, it just doesn't. They're not transferring it to other platforms, and they're not creating that type of content. It's like we make this content; it comes directly from that source, from the gamers. They're telling you what they're doing day and night. They're actually gaming. It's, some of them, actually do this stuff, and it's like the biggest disconnect from the athletes in any like industry. Like I can find out more about a tennis player probably quicker than I can find out about like fucking esports, or maybe it's on par.
I agree, and that's true. I think there are certain places where it might be not too hard to figure out things about certain esports athletes. I don't know if is that what they're considered, esports athletes. Players,
I would call them athletes. I actually wouldn't separate the two. I would literally just call them athletes.
But yeah, like for example, the Overwatch League, I think is one of the few places that really does a good job of letting you get to know the players, whether it be like through short segments that they have on them, allowing them to be people in the outside world other than XQC. But that guy was kind of a piece of shit, so it's okay. But like you get to see more of the players, you get to learn more about the players than you would in probably any other tournament scene that I can think of, because they treat it more like an NFL or an NBA or an MLB. Like they run that organization more like a full-fledged sports league rather than like a video game tournament, like everything else seems to be run like.
See, for me specifically.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I was go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
all right. So, like, for me, I think you guys are like both kind of right, but I don't think Blizzard / Overwatch is actually doing the greatest job. And that might just be the first couple generations of actual players, but I actually think that a lot of the players that they kind of show aren't necessarily that marketable. Like Siegel, for example, I think he's good, but he just like you can kind of tell that people are still attached to being gamers and gamers only, and aren't taking on the celebrity role that a lot of these other sports have. That's needed to propel it to the greatest stardom that they could possibly have. Because I think that's one of the factors, is that maybe that these companies just kind of just don't know how to market some of these people because they actually don't want to be those kinds of guys. And I think that's like one of the biggest issues is like, you know, like just the players themselves just don't want to be celebrities. You know, it's like every time we reach out as MMG, it's difficult. It's difficult to get the influencers / radio personalities is like the easiest way that I would explain it, to kind of have those conversations and do those interviews and kind of build some of the things that all these other sports have that are obviously really successful, but kind of don't happen just because of the people who are involved. There's just so many people who don't believe in the system itself that it kind of dissolves.
And like, I agree with, like, you know, a large portion of that, of course, but, and I will give Overwatch some credit, because I do think, you know, 4 games, I feel like they're leading the way as far as like this new generation of games. I feel like they're one of the games that's like leading the way, and like Fortnite taking up after them, where they're constantly implementing change, listening to the people, giving the people what they want in different variation. Now Fortnite still is very much, well, I mean, Overwatch too, they both rely on this, you know, if you want to get some of these skins, pay for it. But overall, like what they're offering to people, and now Fortnite's slacking on the competitive edge because they're a lot fresher. Overwatch is in like year 2. But offering the people the same type of things does exist, and these big games, these are 2 of the biggest games, are starting to pay attention to that. And I think we see that with Overwatch, you know, creating the Overwatch League, and showing some of this content. Now I don't believe that they're totally getting the content right in starting to move over what the Infinite was saying, you know, really tapping into these celebrities, these athletes. In a large portion that is on the athletes. It's, you have to create that out of the athletes, but being the publisher, being the person that's, you know, creating that content, I think, you know, these organizations, especially the ones that are tapped in, they're right there with them, need to do more digging and need to make more out of the situation. They need to make more out of it. And they're not really doing that. You know, it shouldn't be like, you know, like it's, some of the shit should just be like so in your face, and it's not. I think that's just, I don't know, but I do give Overwatch credit for leading the pack in that way. I think what they're doing is great, and I think it'll allow other games to say, hey, look what they did. Now let's improve upon this.
Saviobi of the New York Excelsior. That's my Overwatch League team. He's throwing the opening pitch out for the Mets soon. So little feet in the water.
Yeah.
Start the celebrity. But I mean, going off of the celebrity thing and just notoriety, I think one that Alvin brought up really big right now, Fortnite, huge. And I think they're doing something that other games don't really do. Mainly just because of the notoriety that this game has and the fact that it's almost a meme in itself. Like, Fortnite is huge. It's so huge right now that it baffles me. Because I don't...
Where we dropping?
Yeah, exactly. Where we drop... Dude, I've seen so many where we dropping memes that it's ridiculous. Just like pictures of random fucking like maps of like amusement parks, and it's like, yo, I just got Fortnite. Where are we dropping?
Bro?
But like, and they know what they're doing because they're capitalizing it at E3. You know, after that whole big thing, streaming wise, Ninja with Drake and the dude from the Steelers, and I know Lil Yachty was invited, but I don't think he made the cut. There was who was the 4th person with them? Does anyone know?
I do know, but
I thought Yachty was with them.
No, Yachty never actually ended up playing with them. I saw him tweet like, yo, guys, I'm ready. And then, he didn't come in. Kim.com was there, the creator of
Something
Mega.
Scott. I can't think it was Travis Scott.
Travis Scott.
Oh, that's
Travis
what I'm thinking, yeah.
But the day after, Fortnite was like, yo, E3, we're going to have a 50 celebrities, 50 professional players tournament thing. My guess is going to be duos, celebrity paired with a professional player. But that, you know, that's a cool thing. That's a cool thing to get the community involved and to get people's eyes on it. Like, people were hooked on Drake playing Fortnite because this is like, what? This guy who records music, and does all this other crazy stuff and has $1 billion actually wants to play a free video game with everybody else? That's crazy.
Or the fact that he even plays it.
He did have the John Wick skin, which I'm pretty sure the John Wick skin either takes crazy amounts of money put into the game or a crazy amount of time. So either way, Drake did it. Good for him, because John Wick's a badass, and I'm a fan of the fact that he has that skin. But it's just bringing more eyes to the product right there. Like, that's a very smart business decision. Like, strike while the iron's hot, you know?
Right, well, and we got to take into consideration how old the game is again. Like, it's been free since October.
Mm-hmm.
That's not very long. The game hasn't. It's not. It hasn't been out a year. Is that half a year yet?
Nope. And it's all
like I'm like, this is really recent.
PlayerUnknown's Battleground with the ability to build walls. That's the only thing. Like, I'm pretty sure PlayerUnknown's Battleground was not very happy that Fortnite.
Oh, they weren't. They weren't. I immediately reported on it. They weren't happy. They were like, "Oh, we might take action."
Well, because they're using the same engine and everything. Like, it's the same shit, just smaller, more convenient, and free.
Well, I mean, it's got a lot. I feel like I can't take that because it's got a lot more aspects to the game that PUBG doesn't have.
PUBG has
and on top of that, I would say, like, as far as map goes, and all these survival games that do exist, they have the only other map that is the farthest away from PUBG. Like, all these other maps look exactly like PUBG's map. They all wanted to have that little island at the bottom and this other spot, and there's a river coming through it. And it's like everybody can't do the exact same map, guys.
I like Fortnite way better than PUBG. I think PUBG's a little too big. I don't think it has ever run well, and people who like it are.
That's my main thing. Is it doesn't run well. For me.
It doesn't run well, and people are like, "What are you talking about? It's so much better than Fortnite." Like, well, I can actually play a game of Fortnite,
right?
And not feel like I'm playing something on my PlayStation.
That's it. And I keep telling them every time. I'm like, you know what? If they fix this, I will come back and I will try it back out, and I'll be like, you know what? Can it hold a candle to Fortnite's action, or is it going to be like, no? But that's my biggest gripe with it. I'm just like, it just doesn't run as nice, guys. You're playing a game for the hype of it, and then you're like, but it looks better than that one. That one doesn't look as good. And it's like,
but it doesn't.
So what? Where are the Pumas? They're comfortable.
Yeah. Also, in Fortnite or in PlayerUnknown's, when it first came out on the Xbox, my buddy accidentally had the wrong hairstyle, and it floated off of his head, so it was impossible for him to hide. And I think that the fact that was a thing in the game, and he had to play the game for a long time before he could change his hairstyle, I think that's just hilariously terrible.
The fact that stuff like that wasn't fixed by the time it came out on Xbox, because by the time it came out on Xbox, I had found Fortnite and gave it the chance. First, I wasn't like, when I first found Fortnite, I was like, I don't care. I'm gonna stay on PUBG, whatever the heck this is.
I'm still not sold on the games myself. I don't like the Battle Royale play, but I understand why they're successful and popular.
The only thing that got me back to Fortnite was just like, again, the playability. I was like, it's just like either this or that, or like, somebody's sniping me through like some shit that doesn't make sense or whatever the fuck. And I'm just like, I can't take it. I have to, let me see this one. And then, like, again, you jump into Fortnite and it's like, it's going to run smooth. Like, if it doesn't, turn your graphics down. And that actually fixes it. That doesn't fix it in fucking PUBG. It's like, you got a little bit better. Now your graphics look like really low. Yeah, it's like, oh my goodness.
I'm gonna jump back real quick though, because I wanted to comment on the whole Drake and Ninja situation, and that's part of what needs to happen. I think it's less about the game, but more about people understanding that gamers, streamers, influencers are gonna become celebrities. And I think that moves us closer to that situation for players to understand the opportunity that lays in front of them. And so I think that's what's going to pull everybody more into the esports scene. I don't think Fortnite's the one to do it. I don't think,
I think
Battle Royale is kind of not really what I would define as an esport.
I can't say that.
Situation.
I can't say that because there's so many anime that already have it as an esport. Like Batum is because I like Batum, but this is a perfect example of an anime where it's that was the esport, the fucking Hunger Games type of situation, the Battle Royale, dropped in the middle, fight it out is the esport, and the main character of Batum was one of the main persons in the esport, and somebody had it out for him, and they threw him in a real life situation for it, and I'm like, it already. There's no way that it can't. They play. Their only holdback is like when they actually start releasing that because they already have the bar for it. But when they actually start making it available, when they enable the option for people to create these custom rooms, and I think they're only waiting. The only reason I think they're waiting for these custom matchmaking rooms is because of what they keep showing us in the little drop downs of Fortnite, which is like the first one is solo, duo, squads, and then maybe here's some new one. Maybe it's blitz, maybe it's 50v50. Recently they did 20s.
Yeah, 20, yeah.
Which was really dope. I was like, this is way better, honestly. The 20s was hella dope. But I think that's what they're really waiting for is, again, they're still not within a year. They're not within like half a year. They're waiting to see what game types they can offer like that are the best. What do people really like? How can we tweak them? Offer those in the matchmaking option so people aren't just making large rooms of 50v50 because they're going to have some settings that you can make. And what else do you offer in the settings besides just the basic shit? We'll give them these game types that you can make. Everybody has shit like that in their games. That's what you give people. And so I think once they have that, that'll really boost it.
About Fortnite in particular, I mean, obviously, like these battle royale games are the most popular right now. But is there longevity to it? Like, can you see this existing still further down the line? Because part of me says yes, and part of me says no. Where I'm like, yeah, okay, like these games are really popular now, and there's a reason for that, and there's a lot of market behind it. But now we're about to get to the point where we're going to start flooding the market with them. You're going to see them a lot more. You got Paladins coming out with the Battle Royale mode. That doesn't need to exist. Metal Gear Survive doesn't need to exist. There's a lot of these games coming out that are just kind of like feeding off of this formula.
Yeah.
It kind of like Overwatch, but Overwatch really only had the two that did it well, which was Overwatch and Paladins.
I mean, and I'll say this, because I totally agree with you. There would be like a saturation point, because every market saturates. It's like, it's like, everything's going to saturate, and the best people will survive. Now, overall, I think Fortnite and PUBG are going to become games of the past, because like any other game, people move on to new games. So that's the reason for that, really. But outside of that, I think technology is going to have a large play to do with it. Once somebody makes, and hopefully be Fortnite augmented reality on your fucking phone, it's over. It's game over for everybody's getting Fortnite. You want to get people out of the house right now, just make a fucking game of tag, which they can actually do. It's already take one of these tag branded games, or one of these laser tag branded games for your phone, AR, say it's Fortnite, throw it on a zone, and let that be it. And people will fucking play, and it'll take off. And then they can actually start to build that type of technology. Hopefully you move it into VR next. But I think that's the next portion of it. I don't think it's going anywhere. Again, these animes aren't putting it in it for things that people, it said that if people are writing sci-fi about it, that's going to be the new technology. If people are writing sci-fi, what's written in sci-fi actually becomes new technology. Whether you want to admit it or not, it's going to take some time, but somebody's thinking about that for a reason. But I think these are actually going to come about.
Now, do you think that, going back with Fortnite, that it will ever have a long, successful competitive run? Because right now is a very casual game. There are competitive players, but I think it's too RNG based. If you get good items out of a chest, you have a higher chance of, there's a lot of skill based upon it. Obviously that dude Ninja is really good. I watched him play with Drake, and that kid was crazy good. And I talked to my nephew about it. My nephew was like, "You're not a teen if you don't watch Ninja." And I was like, "All right, cool." So, love him. Apparently, he donates a lot of money to charity. I like that.
Oh yeah, he's always giving money away.
Yeah, he's a good dude. But anyway, he's very clearly a good player. But a lot of the people who stream, it's entertainment value. It's very casual. It doesn't have to be a super hard competitive game, but is there a competitive? Can this game become a huge competitive game?
Here's my take on it, and I've kind of listened to a couple people. There was someone have you guys ever heard of Shroud? He's really popular PUBG player. Obviously everybody's kind of making the segue to Fortnite. You have to at this point.
That's where the viewers are.
Yeah, it's leading. That's where you're getting all your attention. So if you're a streamer, you have to play this game at some point. I've seen pretty much every player play it, but Shroud's used to be a professional CS:GO player. And then he went to PUBG when that came out, got extreme success as a streamer there, and now is kind of segueing back and forth. And a couple of his chat kind of brought it up, like, "Hey, should this be an esport?" And he's like, "No. What these people should be doing with this specific game type is kind of have streamer battles and just kind of make it a spectacle, a gladiator event to where we drop people in and they can make money off of that." But honestly, I think we're going to see a team deathmatch mode. I think they're going to make that segue into, the 20v20, the 50v50, to where, like, you don't have to mine materials. It just gradually goes up over time, and it'll literally be, fort battles to where people build up forts and then, they slowly collide and they build towards each other. And we have these massive team deathmatch situations to where we're all running at each other. I'm not sure how the weapon spawns will work or anything like that, but I imagine that's how they would make this competitive, is making a team deathmatch mode to where you're not overly investing time on searching for loot / materials. And then,
but at that point, it's a completely different game. I feel like
sure. That'd be the starting point, but that would be the competitive esport.
Well, I mean,
I
guess to be fair, Battle Royale is already a completely different game from Fortnite. Like the Fortnite Battle Royale is an add-on to an existing
to the other game.
Type game.
And that's what I give them credit for. I don't think it's just gonna, like, they're okay with the game just being the same, and that's why I think they keep implementing all these different. They implement a new game mode every week. It's like every week there's like more than one, probably. I don't know exactly, but there's at least one every week where you're getting this new type of game mode to try out. And I don't think they're trying it for nothing. I wouldn't be surprised if you get a week where they do offer something like that, because they're trying it out. And again, with the future of the game, I think they'll run with it as far as they can and like try to adjust these things. I think make it more competitive. Opening up that matchmaking, that key matchmaking ability, so people can make their own rooms and make their own events, because that'll obviously see you take off to another level. But outside of that, and this kind of to do with the game's decay, as the game starts to flatline and the developers leave it, this is a free game. And I would imagine that, the way that they're handling the game, at some point, they kind of open it up more so to mods, it coming from a mod culture. And I see things like that definitely being the case. And like, I see them being the type of company where maybe they're like, yeah, let's open it up to modders and see what they do with their game now, because it's already free and they're about to make just Fortnite in general free. The whole game is about to be free. So I feel like that's very possible in the future. They just open it up and go, hey, have fun with it, and then it just takes off onto its own level, like just like something else that, like, you couldn't have expected this, but here's everything you wanted.
That's an awesome idea. I actually really like that. I'm not sure if they'll let them kind of mod their game though, because like that's one of the issues that I was going to bring up later on in the podcast, but we might as well get into it now, which is like, this is one of the infrastructure problems I think there is. Which is basically another reason why a lot of the news and all that other stuff like kind of has trouble, is I think that the producers of these games are restricting information and restricting the flow of information, which kind of hurts the community's ability to grow. Like Nintendo, taking the advertising funds of YouTube influencers and stuff like that on YouTube, and they're extracting wealth in places that aren't very traditional in a lot of senses. And I think that I can't imagine Fortnite being that open and free. It's awesome for the community, but like no different than Bethesda and, Fallout. Like, I just don't see these developers giving people that much freedom. Like it just constantly over and over and over gets shut down in some way outside of Skyrim. Skyrim's really the only one that I'm like, it was fully modded. It was
Gary's
allowed.
mod, man. Gary's mod.
But like, that's
all about that.
Yeah, but I feel like that's why there's a potential for it to happen here, is because this game comes from a culture of that. That's the way these type of games were made. They're made on top of other games. Like, number one, they all copied from each other. The main one copied from Arma 3. And then it's on top, and then it's a mod on top of Arma 3. Then it's a mod on top of H1. Then it's a mod on top of that. Then go make your own company. Then somebody else wants to copy that. It's all so I'm like, I don't see it. And then like, we have Fortnite. Well, let's make this, let's pretty much mod our game and copy one of theirs. And then they have this, and now they're talking about, and that's free. And now they're talking about making the whole game free. They're not putting a lot of restrictions up already, It's like they're slowly already giving out as like the game was already free. Can do, I don't know. They're giving a lot away. And again, the history of this type of game is just that it's mods in general. And so I see it as a potential. You know, is it going to happen? I don't know. But I think there's a lot higher potential in most games in this case.
Dan, any thoughts or feelings about that? You there, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Any
Looking
thoughts or
intently
feelings?
into the screen.
Sorry, no, my shit was messing up. That was my bad. The internet was it was connected to the wrong network, and it was just kept popping up. The internet is unstable, so I could hear Alvin, but it was like chopping in and out. But no real thoughts on that. Honestly, I agree, and I like Alvin's theory on how to make it last. And I think they would do. I think they could do something like that. I don't know if they would, mainly because the game is based upon, like, the game makes all his monies from implementing shit for people to buy, since it is a free-to-play game. So it would have to be after the point where they're like, well, we're not really ever making money from this again. Let's just give it out. Kind of like what whatchamacallit, EA, I think it was EA did with all the assets from Paragon. It was some game recently. I forgot the studio who published it gave away all the assets from it, and it was like $1.3 million of assets, and they're just like, do what you want with it. It's yours now. So,
right. And I mean, like, there is a little bit more to that as well. I just lost it. All right, we're just gonna have to move on. It actually just left me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the ecosystem of. Okay, that's what it was. I remember. We can segue back, or can we?
Just go. You're already in the middle of it. Just decide a way to go.
Yeah, I keep forgetting what I was gonna say. It was in my head and then it left. But the ecosystem. So, you know, how these. Okay, I remember now. So I think esports in general, as far as the companies go, I think the other obstacle for these games is for them to obviously design games for esports. I think there needs to be some of those factors involved. And the biggest thing that definitely connects to what we were just talking about was to kind of have a service-based game. And I think this is the other reason why it won't quite work the way you're explaining it. Like, I mean, we've had a podcast or talk show before, and we talked about it, and I'm really big into modding. I just don't think these companies are going to do it, especially if all the companies that are going to transfer to esports, that you just need a continuous product that you constantly develop and make money through the free-to-play service, and then just constantly patch and update your game to a point to where it never really dies, because you're constantly giving the game new life through new content. And I think that's the model that we need for esports. You know, I think that's what's going to make...
I mean, that's the model you have from the top-end esports at the moment.
Right.
If you look at Dota 2...
And that's why there's chance.
Yeah, Dota 2, League of Legends... Rocket League, Smash, all these games. Well, Smash is a little different. Smash kind of died off the scene and then had a little resurgence when Smash 4 was announced. But like Dota 2, CSGO, League of Legends, those are the top three esports right now as far as just viewing, not necessarily of competitive viewing, I would say, and of top prize pools. Like, I was looking up the payouts of the last 15. Or of the top 15 payouts, 14 of them are for MOBA games, whether it be League of Legends, Dota, or Smite. The top 6 or 7 positions have all just been the past 7 years of the Dota 2 Invitational Tournament. So they understand how to do it, where they are constantly releasing new things and keeping the game fresh, but also still maintaining a spot in just in the notoriety sakes for esports. It's kind of what Overwatch is doing too, whereas they keep implementing new characters every now and again and new maps to keep it fresh, but also keep the same old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality of the game going. And update, balancing characters to kind of change up the meta and stuff like that. So to keep the players on their heels and you're not seeing the same, team season 1 and season 2 and season 3 and season 4. Like the meta is constantly changing, where the team makeups are going to constantly change as well.
And that's what creates the competition, aka esports. That's what makes them athletes. That's what they're preparing for, and that's like the most important element is to make sure that the competition and the viewing experience continues to change and evolve. And like I think a lot of the games are kind of moving too slow in this direction. I think that they're doing it. And, I know why everybody's slowly dipping their feet into it, but I definitely think they need to move faster. It's just kind of too slow, especially in games like Dota, where people are constantly talking about the game dying. And it's obviously not dying. It just does move really slow, and they just need to move faster, and that's just the deal. It needs to be more of an immersion of the game. So either massive character releases, because maybe they don't want to disrupt seasons too much. So massive, I said massive, but I only mean like maybe 4 character drops every season or something like that. And I think that's what will start making these games exponentially grow to an. I think that's what's going to make it. I think that's what's going to make the esport what it needs to be, is on the content level from the distributor, from the creator of the actual games, for them to go all in on making this what it needs to be by creating all that extra content. It's hard. It's difficult. I understand that. We've had conversations in the past, you and me, Dan, where like obviously Overwatch dropping 9 characters is never going to happen. But
like I said, that could happen for like an expansion type thing, but they wouldn't do that like just because. They would have to charge for that. It wouldn't be cost efficient for them to just be like a brand new game for free.
Well, I think esports is lucrative enough for them to do it. Like the money still needs to catch up, and I'm gonna bring up why I think the money hasn't caught up, but the money's there. Like I think they're gonna dwarf the NFL. Like just the immersion of esports and the internet, and just how more interconnected it is, and how it's developed on many different levels, that it'll easily surpass all these things. They talked about how lots of those events get more views. There's several different reasons for
wide
it.
scale for sure.
There's several different reasons for it, though. The biggest, and we might as well go into a couple of those ones. So, I think there's some key things that need to be established in the industry before we actually go all the way in. I think probably one of the biggest, and it's the most simple, is just for people to have clear ideas of success. Hey, can I go to this company, become a journalist, do news for esports, or the gaming industry, and survive? Like those things need to happen. Because it's going to create jobs in many different sectors, and that's like the biggest pillar for me. But the other thing is people with money need to be able to successfully integrate their money in the scene and invest. And I feel like there's such a huge backlash from the gaming industry when it comes to those things. Now, mind you, these companies aren't doing it very well, and we're having a giant industry shift across the board as far as media is concerned, and how you kind of integrate money into the system. It's happening in TV and billboards. I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. That's like all he ever talks about is how information needs to reach people, and how the traditional ways of media are starting to kind of rug people the wrong way. And I think, that's definitely happening in our industry. But I think if we want it to succeed and we want it to move fast, that we need to kind of let go of some of those different things and allow these people to kind of inject that money into the system for it to succeed. Because it's not going to win if we don't let somebody like Coca-Cola, which is already heavily investing in esports, come do their thing, throw their logo on stuff, have halftime show, sponsor one, just those types of things. Like we need to let those things happen,
I think you're starting to see it slowly. Like, for example, I've been watching a lot of the RLCS this year. RLCS, for those who don't know, Rocket League Championship Series. And that's where the best teams in the world of Rocket League go head-to-head in a season type thing. And at the end, they have like I think 18, not 18, that's way too many. Like maybe 4-team playoff with a championship and a winner crowned at the end of the season. But now what they've been doing, I've noticed through the stream, is they have a lot of kind of like you're saying, like the Coca-Cola sponsored halftime show. They don't have that, but they do have State Farm sponsored Tip Time, where it's a big State Farm logo, and they're like, this is how you should play on an aerial. If it's coming from this way, this is how you should attack the ball and stuff like that. And still showing like Snickers commercials in between matches and stuff like that. So I think it is starting to happen. It's just on a slower, smaller scale, and I think it will continue when the money's there.
And where do you go to like normally watch? Is it just Twitch?
Yep, it's all on Twitch. Or LCS is through Twitch, and it's great because if you play Rocket League and you link your Rocket League account to your Twitch account, you get free items sometimes, and those items have value, which you can in turn trade for better items that you like more, stuff like that. It's great. I really like, and that's another thing that a lot of the games are doing now to incentivize you watching their Twitch streams is by giving you some sort of rewards. Rocket League gives the item drops. Overwatch now gives currency every now and again. You'll get a random currency drop that allows you to buy the Overwatch League skins if you're watching those games and stuff. So it's different. It's getting there.
I mean, for sure, but like, there's still a lot of backlash, I think, in the industry, when it comes to that. And I think at some point, if this is what gamers want, which I think in the end it'll create better games, it'll make everybody take the games in general, video games in general, more serious. And it's just we gotta let the money flow in, and like a lot of people just feel like they're selling out. Like, why am I letting these people enter our system, our area, and like disrupt what this is? But like a lot of people just don't get that. That's just how all these other industries work.
That's how they make money,
That's exactly. So like when you look at traditional sports, like that's where they get their money. They get it through ads during the Super Bowl. That obviously cost buku dollars to do. And like they figured it out. They figured it out.
Stadiums.
Right. And it's like, they sponsor halftime shows. This show is sponsored by Pepsi, and then the lights and flares, and then celebrities get paid, and everything kind of comes together. And like, I get it. They're not doing a good job of integrating their ads within our ecosystem. I think I struggle with that with Money Match Gaming and Facebook ads and things of that nature. It's not easy, and we're not there yet, but it definitely needs to happen, and something that I definitely wanted to bring up to explain some of the issues with esports and stuff like that. So, I mean,
I think it's something that's starting to happen. You're gonna see it more and more often as esports picks up in popularity. But yeah, I agree. I mean, it doesn't happen as much as it probably should. But also from a viewer's perspective, I understand why they don't like it, why it's obnoxious. But at the same time, does it really matter? Is it really, like, if you see a Coke commercial, no one's telling you have to fucking buy Coke. It's just so they get some money, and then you can continue enjoying the thing you enjoy. Like, it's not a big deal.
Well, I think, there's fanatics in everything, including traditional sports. But, I think gamers are pretty damn fanatic. And if Coca-Cola sponsors a dope-ass skin in a game, people will lose their fucking minds.
Dude, if I could get a dope-ass Coca-Cola skin in Overwatch, I don't think I'd care. Like, I want Roadhog to just be a bottle of Coke with a hook hand. That's it.
But the funny thing is, like, you could not, the funny thing about that type of advertising is that you could not care. Like, you don't have to care. But like, kind of like Denfan said, and like even some of these, like, and it doesn't even have to get to the fanatic point. The point is that it's now available, and there are going to be some people who just fucking want it, just for the fucking fact that it's I'm
collectible.
And that's simple advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's all it has to be on some level.
Yeah.
But I think it's a mix of that, not letting that type of money in. I also think there's an issue with like publishers. Enough mediums for the content to flow out through. And it kind of goes back to earlier when I was like, there's no one destination for a lot of this shit. That same thing could be said for like, and that's kind of like why I asked the Twitch question was like, it's cool that it's through Twitch, but even if there was like a publicized site that was like, yeah, this is, some destination, or it's like, yeah, this is going to, we're going to show the Dota event at 2. and then we're going to switch, and we're going to show
Yeah,
this
kind of
bit.
like how ESPN.
They're going to show this bit. They're going to show this, and they're not all from the same fucking company. It's going to be that company, because like that's like also slowing up the esports. It's like, well, these people made that video and they kind of have the rights to it. They don't want to let anybody else do that right now. It's like, so nobody else can see that unless, or like, and that's just an issue. It's like, it really just needs to be a little, like, again, for digital, there's like too many borders being constructed on esports, and it's really slowing things down.
I mean, to go on top of that, because that was one of the topics that I had, which was like the industry shifting across the board, media in general. And I think obviously the internet's becoming more of the TV than the TV itself. Like, people are actually making that shift. And I think we're also dealing with that issue to where like people just kind of are starting to lose an idea of where to put things. It used to be TV. Now it's like, okay, some random spot on the internet, like, it's like how long it took us to find Anthor's Ladder, for example. Like, it just depends on your level of like intensity to kind of seek these things out. We started MMG, we started Smash Weekly events, and then we found Anthor's Ladder, like, after we kind of did a little digging. And I feel like in general, like it misses the casuals because they don't make it easy, like you said. Like, the actual companies per se don't seek out, the influencers of their stuff, and they don't support them in a way that kind of allows them to grow. Therefore, a ton of fragmentation happens because people are looking at these giant companies to kind of lead you that way. Hey, look, here's our community. This is the community. Let me prop them up in some kind of way. And they kind of just don't do that, Like, plugins, connecting with these games, trying to foster these communities becomes really hard. And I feel that way especially with Nintendo, to where it's like they have some of the most fanatic of fanatic, and like half the time I just feel like they're oppressing me. like why can't I enjoy your game the way I want to? Like why do you have to put a label on everything and say it's yours? Like, I thought you were making a game for everybody to enjoy and share with their friends and families, but it feels like you want to rake money from my cold dead hands. Like, and it's like they got to sort that out. It's tough, man, because I think that's the biggest thing is not having the medium, because companies are like, well, we need to get ours first. And it's like, I don't know, we spent buku dollars on your game, we'll pretty much guaranteed buy your DLC. Like, you'll get yours, just make a good game and allow us to play with the way we want to, not restrict everything we do with the thing that we bought just because it's intellectual property, and I think that's the tricky thing, because a lot of research in creating the company explained a lot of copyright issues that we were going to run into, to where it's like we can't do things because they haven't figured out the intellectual property thing, and it's like there's just a lot of things going wrong. Okay, yeah, I guess that can't stand alone. So the next little part would be, what makes esports different from traditional sports? Like what do you guys see as the underlying changing things between those two entities, whether it be football or Super Smash Brothers?
I mean, the big difference is just the way it's played and the way it's portrayed and the way things happen. Traditional sports, tournaments are usually saved for the playoffs, the end of the season type thing. Whereas in a lot of these esports, that's just what it is. It's just always invitational tournaments or different types of tournaments, whether it be, I'm heading up north to the Smash and fighting game tournament, or whatever. I'm going to the Dota International Invitational. These are all tournament type things. Whereas a couple different leagues are now starting to form their own league, whether it's the Overwatch League, whether it's RLCS, where they have like this season things where you can grow to watch your players more than just in the, like, from a fan perspective, at least. You can grow and watch these people play and be like, oh, well, I like this team a lot, and not kind of have to be like, for a tournament thing, it's just like you just kind of watch whatever team exists. For this, you're like, oh, well, I follow New York Excelsior, so I'm going to watch their games, and I can grow and be attached to those players and stuff like that. So that's the main. I think that's the big thing is the attachment is not really there for a lot of fans to players. Sometimes it is. Mango, Hungrybox, those are names in the Smash community that are very big, and people have attachments to them because they're good players. But I don't think it's as common in the tournament aspect to gain those attachments as it is in like the whole season aspect.
I totally agree with you because that's something that I've been speaking with Infinite about, and I'm like, there's an attachment. It's not there. It's not available. Nobody's putting it out there constantly. And like you just said, the only time you're going to hear about it is if they go to this event. Mm-hmm. If they don't go to that event, well, then do you follow them on Twitter? Because most of them only have Twitter. It's like, so do you follow them on Twitter or Tumblr? Because if you don't, you're not going to hear from them.
Yeah, you're not going to
possibly the rest of the year. Maybe you might not. Maybe they come out. They're like, yeah, I'm not going to. I'm just going to play some casuals. And I'm going to come out like in July. And you don't hear from this person until July. It's like, who am I a fan of? Mm-hmm. But like, meanwhile, they are updating their Tumblr, whatever the heck, and they're telling. And sometimes they're actually telling those people. But it's like kind of like the Infinite, like noted to earlier, or not to earlier. It's like you almost have to be like some type of level of fanatic to like search that out. It's like, do I want it? Yeah. Now I know that person's name.
It's a lot less fan friendly.
Yeah, it's like now that I know that person's name from that one event that they did good at, because they might not do good at all these events. And like, who knows if they're ranked, because I don't know which ranking is the real one.
There's a bunch of different people like, these are the top 10 players of Super Smash Brothers.
Right? It's like, that one's global, but this one's this. List. But and it's like, but it's just, it's too hard. And there's no consistent place that is, giving out that information. And that's why I do give Overwatch credit, because they are giving a consistent place. You log into Overwatch, Blizzard, the Blizzard platform thing pops up, Battle.net, and here's some information on Overwatch. Constant coming out at you. You do see it constantly on social media. If something's coming out on Facebook, they're actually putting it in front of you, and using advertising dollars to do it, or at least like putting that information out there. The stories for the characters, they're actually doing this storyline thing. There's not a lot of games that like for them to not have, because quite honestly, for a game that's strictly in an arena, for all of the time, they don't need us. They could have just been like, that's the story. That's the story of Overwatch. Cool. Enjoy the game, guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's what Paladins does. Paladins just started doing lore this week.
But it's crazy. But they were like, we don't really have a story mode. Let's make some lore. And let's just create stories. But they're providing that, and now they're providing it on a player basis. And I'm like, well, if they know how to tell the story there, hopefully they can translate it over here to the players as well. But I give them credit for that, because they're at least attempting those. But that's the biggest disconnect, is that not enough people haven't found that. We don't have that, not to the level of like somebody who's actually playing. I don't have that in Street Fighter. It's still too hard for me to find all the people in Fortnite.
And I also
think it's this and that.
It helps that these are like team-based games too. I think team-based games are definitely more. It's easy to associate yourself with the team than just like one specific person. And that's in my
Actually, I think that would be really easy. It's really easy for Fortnite to go into Twitch, look at who's like kind of players on specific teams, what streamers are really popular, take that information, put their live feeds that pop up when the game starts, like Blizzard, give their roster information, occasionally share their stats. That'd be easy for them to do, and something really, really easy to just them go, okay, here, and then everybody in the community knows who's good. They know the top players. They know the players that are popular, and you're giving these people free advertisements, but it makes your game more popular because you build a better community. And I think these people just don't understand that. They're used to building a game and giving it to people. You saying that, I also don't think, because a lot of this, we could give all fault to the video game companies, but I don't think it all comes on the companies. A certain amount of it comes on the companies when they're not willing to back the fuck up and let people do what they do, because they get in the way sometimes. But some of these issues that we're talking about can be solved.
and it's just a missing. There's just a gap. There's a void right now because nobody's stepping into it and filling that void correctly. Nobody's actually going through all the steps. Nobody's taking all the VODs from these different places, and somebody could take embed all these different fucking Twitch channels on one website for all the top Fortnite players and all the top Dota players, and do it. Somebody needs to do it, but like nobody's investing all the time because nobody's like they're like, we don't know how to do it, so that and then it's a big company line. So it's like exactly, it's like somebody just has to do it, man. Exactly, and that's why it's just like the void is open. So I'm looking at it as like all right, I'm looking at like what you did right. I'm looking at what you did right. I'm gonna start building all that, and we're gonna do it over here. But like, the more more people have to like wake up to those things and like see that like the company is not necessarily going to do it. It would be kind of crazy to expect the New York Giants to also broadcast the New York Giants game to like CBS. It's like yeah, the New York Giants are also broadcasting the New York Giants game. Like they're running everything. They've also they have. It's like no, it's all There's one company that's actually running the concession stands for the whole building. The building is owned by another company. The team is owned by one man. This is owned by, this is the one television company that's here today. This is the other one. That's what I was talking about. Enough people that are actually allowed to fucking display the thing. It's like there's more than one. Surprise! Like esports needs to get to that level. Stop being like, they recorded it, and so because they were. Yeah, they were there, and like you guys didn't have the money because it's a new industry. We're going to get one camera here, and the VODs, those VODs are ours.
Those VODs are ours.
That is why I like the Overwatch League so much, because there's a lot of production value into it. There's a lot of it feels like a real sports league, and which is different from all the other esports leagues out there. So that is one thing. Like, I will hang my head and be like, this is good. And I think they're taking the right step. And I hope more games and more creators start following their kind of like they set up a roadmap. They showed everybody how to do it. Is Overwatch League super successful right now? In places in Korea, it's huge. Obviously.
I'm like, what would make it bigger is if it wasn't just Overwatch League that they were displaying so much. Mm-hmm. If it was Overwatch League and it was Dota League and it was like rotated and there was a place that you can go and you can just see them all and they all have their leagues and you're picking from your channels and it's not just random fucking Twitch channels and I have to go through and decide between which guys are just popping into that girl stream, which people are just being trolls, and I can just find the fucking good people. I'm tired of like popping into a stream. Oh, there's 200 people in this one. Oh, it's because they all like to troll this person. Okay, I'm out. There's 200 people in this one. Like, oh, that girl wasn't on screen for a second. Okay, it's a girl. Okay, pop out. It's like why are they? You really just don't know why whoever the heck is at the top. Mm-hmm. And this is just it needs to be a little bit more refined. And hopefully we get there. But I think once these companies, kind of like what you're saying with the Overwatch League, it's good and it's high entertainment value, and that's why I was asking about G4. But it's like it needs to keep going.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
TV channels. Like the thing that's good about Twitch is it's 24 hours because it's still going.
But the thing is, I don't think switching to a TV channel is necessarily the right choice, especially now with how TV is kind of on the downswing.
Well, I'm not saying on TV. It would be online. Right. It would still. This is all online. I'm just saying it needs to be more sort of like what's good about Twitch is it's 20. You can pop into Twitch at any time, and like it's keeping the TV channel for you, of these people. But it's not. It's still not segmented out enough that you can just find. These are just the top. Like if I could push a Twitch filter and do it by people's stats, that'd be wonderful.
There's no like.
But then there'd be a lot of people that would never ever pop up. A lot of people would just never pop up. Regardless to how funny and whatever else they were. Just like your stats suck.
Yeah.
But that would be nice.
Suck.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice for for media publishers. It'd be really nice. You want to find those people for these companies and stuff like that want that. That's what they want. But meanwhile, these companies like you can find your Fortnite stats online. You can find a lot of other stats and stuff like that. But there isn't an official Fortnite API, which means Fortnite hasn't officially released the code that will just generate that information for you. but other people have done it.
Yeah.
And so you can use theirs. You can use their application. So you have to use a third-party source to do so, because Fortnite hasn't released it because they just don't want to. But everybody else, as long as you have the savvy to tap into that and do it yourself, you can. But it's like, why are there these just fucking? So instead of you guys taking that, now these other.
So pretty much, and this is not something that we're going to have time to talk about, but something that was on the list, which was sanctioned bodies, because I think that's what we're describing throughout this entire process, is we just need cleaner sanctioned bodies that kind of oversee the production and all that other stuff that allows enough people to enter the system and provide a consistent funnel of information that relates to anything esports. And like that's definitely the shift that Money Match Gaming's making. We definitely want to have a ranking system that's very viewable and, all that other stuff. And I think that's kind of what it needs. Clear rules, hey, this is how you win, lose. This is how we kind of rate how good a player is. This is why you get PR system right out in front of you. Provide all the content related to their stats, the things that are going on with them, the drama in the scene, news, essentially. And then we'll be shooting straight after that point, and I definitely agree. But before we close out, because we're running out of time basically, and I can't have Smurf on without asking this question: does crypto play a role in esports?
Yes, I think so in the future. There's already a few cryptocurrencies that are specifically gaming related, which have risen. I'm sure they're down a little bit now because the whole market's down. But saw as much as like $1 rise last year from like 1 cent and shit. So I'm like, I think it has a rise there. Also, it already exists in indie games, depending on the developer that you're looking at. You can find indie game developers that provide you with ways to, just in general, and I'm just gonna start off with gaming in general first, but in general, just to game, and then make crypto from a lot of indie games. Ethereum, and so like Ethereum is probably the biggest network that's playing around with this. They had Crypto Kitties come out a month or so ago, which is just like fucking beanie babies for fucking kittens digitally. And if you have 2 Crypto Kitties of different types, you can make a Crypto Kitty baby that's never existed before. And so they're collectibles, but you do it with your Ethereum. And so that went wild. And now this week they launched like a new card game. They did a celebrity one after that. They launched a new one, and it's like a battling card game. So they're starting to move into that already, where it's like now you can make these cards with your Ethereum, and you can battle and earn more Ethereum, which is pretty dope. So there's a card game that, like, I'm like, that's actually kind of dope. At what point
does that become like gambling?
It rides that line for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure it does ride that line somewhat, but I think it depends on, like, currently it's just going by like the rarity of the items, and so like it depends on what you get, and like if you had like because you're making things. Same thing how the Crypto Kitties, it's like crafting in other games. You need these things to craft that item. So I think there's a lot of value there, and I'm excited to see where that specific portion of the market goes as it continues to develop. I think overall, we're on Steam it right now and D Live. I think platforms like this that continue to emerge, and like things that we're working on, where like people can go and you can sign in, play your game, and like just enter like, oh, I checked in today. Here's your cash out for your progress, and be rewarded for things like that the same way that games already do, where they give you coins and shit like that. It's implemented in most games. Most games already have a coin system. Yeah, like every fighting Naruto, this or that, whatever the hell game has a coin system so that you can buy more, whatever the heck. It's already implemented. Them transferring that into a digital good isn't a hard step for them to make. Like if we wanted to, like we could like I could go out right now, take one wave coin, the cryptocurrency that allows you to make other cryptocurrency, call it fucking V-Bucks, and for every V-Buck that somebody like sends to me, like, I can transfer it into however much cryptocurrency or whatever rules I want to set for it. But you can they can already do this shit and just like, send us that and here's your actual price. So it can already be worked into the system. It's just like, when are they going to start to do it on a grander scale and actually work it into the game in a way that they feel like is fair. And I think that comes about when they start connecting the games too. Since we were just talking about API systems, the data. When they start getting less handsy with all the fucking data that they have, when Nintendo backs off a little bit and goes, we have to make it more public. When they do that, they'll make that much more money, and everybody else will make that much more money, and it'll be able to boom from cryptocurrency like on a whole another scale. I think it'll already be able to take off, but like that's your real potential, is that you have like a billion fucking gamers, and you can mine you have a billion people to mine data from right here. Get their data.
See, where I see the real success is if they make a cryptocurrency currency that is multifaceted and it works on several different games. So let's say you're playing Final Fantasy, and in that game you earn cryptocurrency by killing monsters because it comes out as Zenny or whatever they want to call it during that game. And you can take that money and go over to Nintendo Mario's Odyssey, and kind of buy things in that game and kind of have it actually have real value. So when people are playing games, they're actually earning a small amount of income that they can use in different platforms. And I think that would blow my mind, and I actually see real value with that. And I was, and that's what I actually thought after kind of exploring, the cryptocurrency marketing and running to people who did kind of just that, but it was all an enclosed system that was controlled by them. And I was like, okay, well, that's a lot less interesting. But
but I think it'll happen. And like, just from my last thing, I'm like, there's already a few games that I know that are built on the Steam blockchain. They're very basic, like just some Java written like video games or something like that. Like one of them is Steam Pac-Man. I forgot the other one is like some type of like dungeon game or puzzle games. But they're all very basic games. But there's you can like play like a few poker games to do this and stuff like that. So I think there's a blackjack game that exists this way as well. But it's the same thing. You play this game and you earn Steam. You go farther in Pac-Man, you get a high score, you earn some Steam. You can do this today. It's fun to just test it out. And it's like they shoot a Steam. But it already works, and that's one situation. I just bring that up because I'm like, that's one situation where that's a currency that obviously can be used for more than one game because you just work it into whatever. So I'm like, it can really be with any currency. It's just a matter of like who adopts that currency
and who attaches it to the blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
This is basically it. Yeah, and I figured it's just we got to get a bunch of different players to kind of plug into the same thing, which is hard, especially the way these companies tend to operate, because like I commend Overwatch League, but at the same time, a lot of people felt blocked out, like I did like the whole cursed teams, the TSMs and so on and so forth, these solo individual kind of games. I like the decentralized aspect, but with Overwatch League, they were like, there's a $20 million buy into this, like the league. And it's like, I get it. It makes a whole lot of sense. It's going to make, all these advertisements and sponsors have a safe place to put their money, but at the same time, like just have people qualify, like kind of have like a regular season, and like obviously the people who do the buy-ins are guaranteed to be there, but these other teams, I would hope that they have the opportunity to earn their way in the league, and maybe that might change.
The way Overwatch League works is more like an NFL or NBA or like a sports league does it, where they have a draft at the beginning of every year.
Yeah, there's just those.
And all these players were drafted. You can go to like a combine type thing where you show off your skills, and the team owners and the GMs and whatever will look at your stats, look at how you play, look at how you do what you do, and then they'll choose if they want to draft you or not. So it does take away from like, oh, well, these guys are my team already. These are the people who I play with. But it does kind of have that system where there is a come up, and people will be, joining teams and stuff like that. And they'll probably be adding more teams at some point, I'm sure, too, as the league grows.
Well, you just got to buy in. You can have your team. You just need to meet the $20 million buy-in, which again, it makes sense. I think that's what makes so many other leagues successful, is they do have licensing fees, but 20 million? And it's just like and maybe it's just because of like learning about crypto and learning about decentralization and kind of spending a lot of time in that space. The idea of gatekeepers isn't the greatest. And like gatekeepers are fine, but at $20 million, I'm not sure if I feel it. Hopefully that comes down.
So once again, this is a professional sports league. This is supposed to be treated on the same level as you would treat the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, the MLB. That's what it's supposed to be.
Well,
so
I understand what it's supposed to be.
Teams. It's not so like, me and my buddy Paul raised a bunch of money so we could start our own Overwatch League team. No, it's supposed to be like this high-end type thing where not everybody can just buy in and start a team.
Why not? I mean, like there are professional,
for the
entities.
same reason you can't do that in the NBA.
But you could do it in boxing.
$10. I'm the start of baseball team.
You could do it in boxing. They have a sanctioned league.
Boxing is a different thing, though. Boxing is not.
It's a professional.
Nothing like NBA, NFL, MLB.
It could be though,
but it's not. Those are two different things.
I mean, sure.
But that's just three sports. That's just like, so it's like if we were to just curtail it to like these set three sports versus all other sports in the world.
No.
And like, yes, these ones do have like the biggest, but it's like.
It's the same thing with any sports league, whether it be the Premier League, whether it be for soccer, whether it be this, any of the soccer leagues, any of the cricket leagues, any of the rugby leagues. That's just how they do their business. It's not the same way as a boxing, because boxing is a completely different sport. That there's no real like season tables and like, you gotta fight everybody round robin style, and then at the end we'll pick a few of you to go to the playoffs and fight each other. Like that's just not how that sport works.
I mean, sure, but just because that's the way they traditionally work doesn't mean that's the way they have to. They could move to that system. The only reason,
like, I would say, like, what does it take to get into like the FIFA World Cup?
I believe there's a bind.
Soccer FIFA World Cup?
Yeah.
You have to. It's a tournament.
Well, yeah, I realize that.
So it's the same thing as NFL.
It's a country-based tournament.
Right, but if I'm a poor country, like, can I still get in though?
Yeah, you can.
So why can all these countries? But like, there's countries from all these other. They're all coming like in FIFA. They're all coming from random ass leagues.
Yeah,
they're all coming from their own random ass leagues, but they're all allowed in this event. And I'm like, why isn't that the case? Why can't these all these? But it's not the case in Overwatch.
They just don't win in the qualifiers. Cuba has a team. Cuba's not even known for soccer. We have a soccer team. We compete in the World Cup. We just don't ever actually make it to the final 64 teams.
But that would be like, but in this scenario, it'd be like, okay, like here's Cuba. Now all the Cuba athletes and all the American athletes tried out. We took 3 Cuba athletes, maybe, and they're on some other team. Cuba doesn't get to come, even though you guys had 3 athletes that are good. Your team was good enough. But we only get these 3 athletes because we're only going to have this many teams, period.
But
so fuck Cuba as a country, like fuck all the countries. But it's like it's taking it. Like it should be like if there's does it not start as a bigger bracket, or does it just start as like a set size bracket for the qualifiers? Does the qualifier start as a bigger bracket, or is it just like it's an only 8-team qualifier? And that's it?
No. It's all right. So at least in soccer, the way this works is that every continent has their own bracket set up. Pretty much, it's not even a bracket. It's like a round robin style tournament, the same way the World Cup is done, where every country is allowed to participate whether they choose to or not. And they actually do this for Overwatch League. But
they're not going to take a whole team.
Overwatch World Cup too. What do you mean? They do take the whole team if the whole team wins. The problem is the whole team doesn't win. Like international sports and
the whole team either wins or loses.
Yeah, I'm very confused at what you're trying to say. Like international sports and like the like competitive like league sports, like the FIFA and the FIFA World Cup are 2 completely different things.
Right. I get that.
Yeah. So I don't understand what you're trying to say.
So he's comparing Overwatch League to
and the Overwatch World. Okay, but no. But there's an Overwatch World Cup that does the same thing that the regular World Cup does, where you choose a country has this team, they participate. Who chooses the team for the country? I don't fucking know.
Well, that's what we're saying, though. That's
I think,
the actual argument.
I think that setup that they have going for those type of events, though, is much better.
I do
like
too.
The Overwatch Cup, that whole strategy where they do have qualifiers and stuff like that, and the teams get to work up through those wild card games. Those things do exist, and I do see that. And they do the same thing with different Dota events. That's a much better setup than being like, we have 10 teams that you can possibly play for, you get to play in this event with this team, and we're gonna draft you from how good your team does.
It's just less.
But you might not get drafted even if your team wins. And it's like, well, I was on the winning team. We don't want you. We want this person from that. And it's like, but that was the team. You just split up a team of competitors possibly.
The same thing happens with football. Like, not everybody who plays in college goes to the professional leagues.
That's true, but that's not a team base. It is
100%.
What I'm saying, it's an individual draft. We're talking about
that's the same thing they do with Overwatch.
It's an individual. It shouldn't be an individual draft for a team game.
Why?
That's what I'm saying.
That's the argument.
Because it's a team game. If it was Smash Bros, if it was Smash Bros, that would be cool. If it was Smash Bros, that would be cool. But for you to only accept teams, and it's fine to do that on some level, but for that to be the only way of entry, for there not to be like, that's like, why in a team game? Can a whole team not be like, well, I need my team to be good?
Like I said,
but that's counting that. But that's canceling out so many people that are good because they work together as a team.
Right. And once again,
and because they don't work together as a team with these other people, then this like
it doesn't. But our argument
is trying to model regular sports.
But our argument is they don't have to do that.
But they can do. You could like, and that makes sense for regular sports, and that would make sense for that would make sense for Street Fighter. That would make sense for Smash Bros. That makes sense for those teams, and we have teams in Smash Bros. And Street Fighters that operate that way. They already operate that way for those games. You don't need to take that exact same same thing for these individual games that matter that way. And you can form a Smash Bros. Team, and like it can be individual ass players. I'm not talking about for team matches. I'm talking about is a team Echo Fox, and you have 6 players for Smash Bros, which we drafted, and individually based on you can do that. That's fine. But in the case of a team-based game where sometimes, like, and I'm saying it's cool that you can do that sometimes. Maybe you just want this player, you can have your star players. But if there's a team and you're like allowing other teams in the league and to be like, well, you didn't get in because you're only good if your whole team is good. And we can't have your whole team because we already have a team of 10 and we only need 1 player. So your team just shouldn't be allowed. And I'm like, that's where I'm like, well, if that team is able to beat one of these other top teams that's already just bought a spot and they're better than them, and the only reason that whole team isn't getting in is because this team bought in.
Once again,
like
that's not how it works at all. That's not how it works.
I know it's not how it works.
We understand that's not how it works.
I know that's the issue.
No team is buying in. An owner is buying in to own a team.
I know.
Yes,
it's the owners. Yes, that's the problem.
They get to choose. They're the gatekeepers.
I don't see a problem. Like I said, this is exactly how traditional sports work.
And that doesn't make it right, though. That doesn't make it right. They don't do that in League of Legends. League of Legends is extremely successful. They can market their teams all they want.
Right, but they don't have a thing like the Overwatch League does.
I know.
Right.
And I'm saying that
they're different things.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I don't like about the Overwatch League, though.
Yeah, that's my biggest gripe with the Overwatch League. That's the one thing I don't like. If they made the Overwatch League more like the cups that happen for Dota and for Overwatch, I would be that much more into it. I would be so much more into it if the people that I'm playing with on a normal basis and their team that's working hard together can actually have that whole team. My friends can group up, just get damn good, and then take one of these teams out that is holding one of these fucking 10, even if it only remained 10 teams, even if it only remained 10 teams and they were able to move that team out,
so
that would be great. Instead of it being like, well, you had 2 players and we're going to take those 2 players and put them on, even though like even though your team was able to beat this team that's paid for head to head every time, we only want these 2 players. I'm like, no, get them the fuck out. At least give them the shit. That team is better. Put them on the fucking, like, why?
I don't know. I don't understand. Like, I understand where you're coming from to some extent. Like, and they do still have
there's a better team. It's like you have the Cleveland Cavs and LeBron James,
right,
and they're winning games and they won a championship. And you're like, I just want that championship team. That championship team deserves to be in again now, or into this final bracket or whatever the heck. And you're like, we only want LeBron. It's like, cool. But that's a decision made by the gatekeeper instead of the whole team pulling together and being the reason.
That's just the way that traditional sports work, and that's what Overwatch League is trying to do. That's all I'm trying to say. You guys are like, this is what I want. This is what I want.
We're discussing the problems.
But I don't think that is a problem.
I do.
If they're modeling their system off this, and that's what they want to go off of. It's a personal choice.
But it's like esports has been failing, and it's like it's slowly getting better.
Right, and Overwatch League is actually succeeding.
It's doing okay, but the issue is they're not going at the rate that they should be going at. It's going very slow for esports that have been around for starting with like StarCraft finally taking like a decent large scene and shit like that. It should be way beyond where it's at right now, and we're finally getting somewhere, and we're still finding these like gatekeepers and things like that that just want to stand in the way at different levels of people being like there is like, and I'm just like, and like again to your point, sure you can draft people to teams like that. That should be totally fine. But for a gaming situation, if I have my 4 friends on Halo that are better than your fucking that fucking $1 million team and we beat them, I want to spot in with my team. I don't want to have to compete. I want my team in there. I don't want to have to join the other team.
Listen,
I want just my team.
I understand that's how you want it to work, but it doesn't work with that system. It doesn't, because guess what?
It doesn't work with that system in Overwatch League only. In Overwatch League only.
Right.
It's only Overwatch
that's
League.
How they're running their thing.
So they're not being as successful as they can possibly be.
They
because
are.
all these other Overwatch Cup is going to be. I guarantee you, Overwatch Cup. If they continue, if Overwatch Cup adapts cryptocurrency alone, they will be 5 times bigger than Overwatch next year. Okay. All they have to do is Overwatch Cup. They make these places need to make one adjustment. They're going to be bigger than Overwatch League. It's not that great. Overwatch Cup and the Dota Cup are already bigger than it. Overwatch League is not that great. That's a different thing.
It's a different type of entertainment.
It's because of how they're offering the entertainment. Overwatch League can't get to that level of Dota Cup where they're offering like people are able to build the prize of the Dota Cup from fans. Overwatch League is not offering these availabilities. They have too many gatekeepers in the way.
I just think it's a different thing. You're like I don't like how this is done. It's
because they're not even allowing themselves to get as big as the Dota Cup that already exists. And like
they're doing it in their own. All right,
their own way, but it's like it's slowing things down though. It's slower. It's just too slow. It's like I guarantee you, they're not thinking right now. We figured it out. We have everything perfectly done. And we don't need to change anything with the Overwatch League. I guarantee you that's not their mindset.
And I'm not saying that they are, but you're asking for a completely different league at that point.
That's what we're asking for.
As far as the entry,
that's not what they're going for right now.
For the bar to entry, yes. I would like the bar to entry, yes. I would like the bar to entry to swap that way.
Once again,
and like if they wanted to keep if they wanted to keep the 10 teams, I would say that's cool, but allow a team to be swapped out then. And the winning team should be able to take their place then. Like
now,
if that's
Can I speak my piece now?
Go for it.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, and a lot of leagues do that thing. For example, the RLCS also has another tournament called the RLRS, where it does have that, where a team at the bottom will get relegated to the RLRS, and the team at the top of the RLS will move up to the RLCS. That's fine, and that works in those kinds of leagues. The Overwatch League is trying to do something different. They're trying to model theirs more off of regular sports. Now, that you might not agree with that, but that's what they're trying to do. For the same reason why a college team, I don't know who's about to play for the national championship in basketball. Have they decided yet?
Michigan, Loyola.
Okay,
Kansas.
let's just say Michigan wins, right? All right. So Michigan just won the college basketball championship. You're saying that they should be able to play the worst team in the NBA, and if they beat them, their whole Michigan team, you're no longer from Michigan. You are now in the NBA. That is what you're saying. And that just doesn't work with that kind of system. It won't happen.
It doesn't, because that's built on a different system. It's a whole different. Yeah, it does. It's a whole different industry where you're not coming together the way that you come together for a college team. You're not being drafted from across the country. You're coming together with your friends and getting good with your friends and developing a cohesiveness with your friends. And then you're being dissected from your friends just because of maybe I don't want to play professional sports without my friends. The whole point was for us to get good together. And then it's like it happens that way. There shouldn't be those things though.
There are other Overwatch things where that exists.
And I'm not saying, and I'm like Overwatch, I'll continue to give Overwatch League its credit. It's a good league. But I think overall, that's going to be what holds them back the most. And they're going to see the Overwatch Cup overtake them, and other leagues like this are going to continue to overtake them because more people are allowed to participate in these leagues. If you have if the NBA was garnered off to because if the NBA was garnered off to only college athletes, that would be a problem. But it's not just college athletes. You can come in off the street and try out for the NBA.
You can come off
You
the
can
street
come
and
off the street
for
for
the
the NFL.
Overwatch League.
But
I don't understand what you're saying.
here's the thing. The only reason that they designed the league that way is so safe, so people, like money, has a safe place to insert their money. That is the only reason that they set up the league this way. There's no issue with having random teams from across the world come and compete for a qualifier, guaranteeing those spots in the league for the players who bought in, and then having, the riffraff come up through the woodworks and work their way into the system and win that way. And be able to compete in the actual seasons. There's no reason why they can't do that. And like you mentioning college, but college does allow you to do that. You have to create a good enough team that can go D1, and then you compete in that environment.
No, it doesn't. You can't take a college team and put them in professional sports.
No. I'm talking about in the college. I'm talking about in the college.
He's talking about in college
setting.
in general,
Yeah.
like going from a different league.
Yeah,
You can go from one college. You can go from one college realm to the next one. You can
I get it.
Better in college. You can do that with your full college team.
Listen, I think they're
build
doing
up to the
this
next
for.
rank.
I think that the way they're structuring the Overwatch League is from an approachable standpoint. Yes, like you said, by money and by just traditional sports watchers. It's easy to understand when it works the same exact way that it works. I understand what you guys are saying. Yes, it's a team-based game. I played with my friends. I want to be able to play with my friends forever. And you can. There are other leagues where you could do that and other tournaments where you could do that. But that's not how they structure Overwatch League. It's like a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. You can play with your two friends. Me and my two friends. We got a 3-on-3 team. We've been playing for our whole life.
I totally get it.
Love
I'm
doing
just saying
that's 3-on-3 tournament, but we're not.
I totally understand that, and I totally understand your point. But like when you're asking me what's going to hold them back and what's holding back esports, that's what's going to hold them back in the longest.
The best
Because
doesn't rise to the top.
if the Dota Cup can keep doing what the Dota Cup can do, Overwatch needs to find 10 more teams to add next year to keep up with that prize pool. They're not going to add 10 more $20 million teams next year. They can't keep up with Dota Cup's fan base, period. They need some type of solution. And the only way they're going to get that is from opening up the pool to possibilities of other people on this other teams, not just, this one person got through. That's not more money because one individual athlete got through. If the team gets through and the team is winning other events, then that's more teams in your league.
Once again, I think expansion is a good idea. I do think they should add more teams, but I'm fine with the way they do it now. Like, I like the draft. It changes things up. It's, it's different. That's my personal opinion. It is what it is.
I just think
I think they'll be successul, and I think that they have the tools to be successful in front of them. It's just,
I think the Overwatch. I think the Overwatch League is eventually going to die. I think something will replace it. It has to, because there has to be, because our whole thing to one of the first things was infrastructure, and the infrastructure it's not set up well. That's not set up well where you have to go to whatever the hell to participate, and then they take that it needs to be a better process, and then it can't be the process of that's harder to get into it's harder to get into the Overwatch League than the NBA, the MLB. It's harder than anything right now because there's 10 teams and you have it's the hardest fucking sport period to get into. There's the least teams in the world and the smallest caps, and how the fuck do I get into this? That's a problem for one of the biggest. That's a problem for one of the biggest, because video games are bigger than most of these sports. That's a problem. That one of the biggest things has the small, it's the most hardest thing to get into over all these sports. That's a problem. Then that's a big problem. It shouldn't be that. That shouldn't be the problem. These people should be able to compete on some. And it's sure, more, and that's why I'm more and more leagues and things like that will pop up and compete with them, because you can't have that. It can't be that big and it be that exclusive. That is a serious smaller than a 1% fraction. That it's crazy.
I think it can be that big and that small right now because it's the beginning. It's the first year. It's testing the waters. For all, like you said, it could maybe not be successful, and then after this year they shut it down. That's possible. They could also end up adding more teams. That's possible. But you got to understand, this is the bottom floor. This is the starting point. This is them laying their foundations. And honestly, I think they're doing the right things. I think they're making good choices. I think that they have a good foundation in place. It's just where they go with it. I don't think that adding me and my 5 buddies won this invitational tournament, so we're in your league now. I don't think that's the right way to go about it, because
if you and your buddies won 5 majors, though, if you and your buddy won 5 major invitational tournaments and are ranked as the #1 team in the world, and then your team wants to be in on the league, and they say no, we only want the captain of the team. That's shit. That's like shit. That's like, why is the best team in the world allowed to play?
As a heads up, all the players from the best team in the world are in the Overwatch League, as a heads up.
Because they get bought by one team, but it's like
nope.
Yes,
some of them are on Soul
Dynasty.
Some of them are on London Spitfires. Some of them are on New York Excelsior. They're not all on the same team.
Yes. Now, are all those people friends?
Yeah.
They're all friends from the same area.
Yeah, they're all from Korea. They're all friends from Korea. Yes.
Yes. Those 6 people.
The 6 people that were on the best team in the world for Overwatch and are now in the Overwatch League. Yes.
And that's kind of his point. But like, all right, we have to sum it up though, because we're definitely going over and we're kind of beating it up a little bit. But I'll summation this. Simply put, we kind of went through the entire podcast talking simply about how infrastructure is the biggest issue and the biggest hurdle that they have to overcome, and there are a bunch of things in Overwatch League that kind of go against some of those things that we talked about and generally agreed with as a group. They're definitely going to have some issues. I definitely agree with Dan that it won't fail, but it's definitely going to have its issues.
They very well might fail.
I think it'll fail.
It's too popular. It's too popular as a game.
It's popular, but again, like the thing with big companies, like the issue with big companies, and like we're seeing infrastructure issues, and it's like it wasn't just announced. It was announced for like a year. There was like a year of announcement for the Overwatch League. They're not just. I know. I'm just saying they're not just starting on this project, and so this is a big year for them. But it's going to rely on, they're going to need to make changes. And I think one of the changes will be they're going to need to add more teams. Like whether they do so or not, sure, they can be successful without it. But if they don't do that, then they're going to need something else. And it's going to be on that media and, the ability to continue that media story, because it needs to be a good story then, especially if you're only keeping it to 10 teams and they're all going to be South Korean. Then it needs I know there's
Philadelphia
I'm just saying it needs to be, you got to have a good story. You can't keep telling me the exact same story from the exact same people and not, I need to hear some stuff. I need some background, and this
it's not my fault.
It's got to be good. The same way that Overwatch, the same way they're good at, developing those lore stories. They need to get good at developing these Overwatch stories if they're not going to open it up to a wider pool, because that is going to be slowing them back. Then you're just getting a large fan base that is going to start looking into that, and they are going to, and as that fan base grows, they are going to start looking for other ways to get competitive. If it continues the way it's going, that fan base that's competitive is going to want ways to compete. And when they get cut off from this league, if there is another place that they can go, they're going to go to that other place, and that place will continue to grow. And if that place is the Overwatch Cup, or if it's somebody else that comes out of nowhere or whatever the hell, then that place is going to become their rival, and it's going to be
MMG.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to look at it as a traditional sport, and it's difficult because as much as I like esports more than I really care about most traditional sports, it's hard to survive because football, baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever, these games have been played forever, longer than any of us for sure. No esport will ever be played as long as any of those sports. It's just
I think that's incorrect. As time goes on, I think those sports are going to start to die out, and esports is going to be taking the spot of those, especially with virtual technology, virtual reality and shit like that. It's going to be over once virtual reality comes along. Esports are going to take off to a completely different level. Once again, that's insane.
You're thinking of esports as a whole, and I agree with that. But there is no one, like Street Fighter, I would say, is the closest thing that has been there for the beginning of time of esports, and it still exists now. But it's 5 different iterations, 5 very different games with the same title.
I'm like, I would challenge you with something like StarCraft. I'm like, 50 years from now, quite honestly.
Right, but 50 years from now,
StarCraft. I like StarCraft.
They won't be playing StarCraft 2 50 years from now,
Oh.
And basketball is basically the same. Like, there's a lot
of changes.
There's a lot of changes. You can't say that thing, because I'm like, there's a lot of changes. There's changes to heights. There's changes to lines, like line regulations, to the how narrow the court is, to how it looks like this, to how it goes like that, to how it is in different continents. There's like lots of changes to the games. to baseball and cricket are damn near the same. You know, there's changes to games and stuff like that. I can't call those too much the same though.
No,
but yeah, I'm like, I can't call too much the same. Anyways,
I get what you mean.
But basketball, it's going through too many changes, and football's going through those changes
with
too.
The times. But
and we're talking about these top sports. I'm like, football you have the most dangerous future.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially with esports coming up, because if esports football doesn't take actual football out of the picture, I don't know what that's going to take it out of the picture. If I can become a lineman and have that guy's strength, I've earned 98 strength on my lineman pushing ability. I'm gonna be a fucking beast ass lineman. What you talking about? I'm a pro lineman now, bro. Like that's what I'm about.
This is
lineman is one of the most. That's
a little too rare. Ready player.
No, seriously though, no, because like I think it'll be great like for esports and like quite honestly like when that hits though and because I think that is gonna happen and like when you do have that ability. Like I played different sports in football. I was quarterback. I was like tight end. I was on the line. I was, linebacker. I played a lot of different positions, and I had the most fun on the line, which people don't get to experience that much. And you don't get to experience it in like a lot of when you're actually playing the game. And shit. Like the line is so much fucking fun. Like when I stopped playing football, I was like, yo, I'm gonna miss the line. Like I'm gonna miss the line, bro. Going down to the line.
It's for all like
on the line.
It does. And like on occasion when you're playing with your friends, if you have like that many people playing a football game, somebody will choose a lineman and they can make a big play. But when you're actually putting people into those positions and you're gonna actually play with your friends, it's hard to like just play backyard football with your friends. It's that much harder now when all the moms are worried about concussions. Right. They weren't even worried about concussions when we were playing.
Right.
Like,
they
were just like, my baby. They were worried about us dying and stuff, but they weren't worried about like, all this news and stuff is out, So it's like it's going to become that much harder on them. You offer that virtually, and they can like, and you don't have to be the strongest kid in school to be the best kid in school and shit like that. In these positions, you have to have the hand-eye coordination, and everything else, and you can like, embody that through a virtual. I think it'll really take off, and I think that would beat most regular sports, quite honestly. I think the audiences are going to be there and it's easier to attain than any sport in person. Sure, you can still have, that'll be available, but I think it'll be on a much wider scale. More.
I definitely agree. And I think that regular sports are definitely dwindling in popularity. They're definitely going down for the most part, at least in this country. I can't say the same for every country. Definitely. I mean, well, in Korea, video games have been way more popular than any sports that they've had, like, since probably StarCraft 1. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting. It'll be interesting to see where it all goes. I think it's a little too early for anything crazy to happen. I think it'll probably be like anything like the things that you're talking about, Alvin. I think that
that's like
we'll probably see down the line, but that's going to be pretty far down the line. But we'll see. Like, and I agree. I mean, it's way safer to be a professional gamer than to be a professional football player. The worst I have to worry about is carpal tunnel, which, okay.
It's bad, actually.
It is bad.
But you won't even have carpal tunnel anymore.
It's a lot different than brain damage.
It won't even be carpal tunnel. It'll just be like straight up VR football. All positions are taken by actual people.
Mm-hmm. I think
that's
be
actually
robots.
Entertaining.
I actually don't think it'll be full virtual reality. I think it'll be robots. And basically what they'll do is you'll still have to work out, lift weights, run, show eye-hand coordination, and then they'll just model the robot after you, and you'll be in like some rig that allows you to run and still run into things. Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's what I was thinking of. And it'll be like that. So you won't be smacking your head against people. It'll be a robot built to your size and stature, and that's how they'll maintain themselves if they're smart. Because it'll be super interesting, and maybe they'll turn some weird things and make it video game like to where they'll up the stats of the robots so they're like jumping fucking super high. And robots can like destroy each other and stuff by running into each other. There's some cool things they could do that could make it interesting as shit. But we're definitely killing it on time this one, the first time. So we're gonna have to close this to an end. It was a pretty fun conversation, especially at the end. Esports is coming for sure. Hopefully we can get over these infrastructure issues and so on and so forth, and still let the cream rise to the top. Because that was my issue with your argument, Dan. It was just like it definitely doesn't allow the cream to rise to the top. You know,
I mean, they're just regular sports, man.
right, and
That's
that's why we're arguing against it. That because it's not like those sports don't have their issues either. They definitely have their flaws. So
for sure.
So it's just one of those things. But thank you guys for coming out. D Live, thank you guys for listening and sharing those comments and stuff like that. And Twitch, we're gonna let you guys go. Much love from Money Match Game Team. Things are moving. Until next time. Good night. Good night. Good night. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.